All right, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the REI Marketing Weekly newsletter. Today, I'm going to talk to you kind of about what you need to look for when it comes to bringing in somebody to do your marketing. There are 10 things that I'm going to give you, 10 things to look for when you are bringing somebody on. Now, I'm not giving these tips here so that I'm saying like I have all these. I believe that my team as a collective has all of these qualities that are needed, but I'm also not here to sell you. I know that like I'm actually at a cap right now with clients. I'm not able to take on any more clients at this point. So this is for you. This is for you to understand, like, you need marketing, you need somebody to run your marketing at some point. Even if you're a solopreneur right now doing your own marketing, at some point, if you are going to scale up, you're going to need somebody to do your marketing. So what do you look for? Like, how can you determine if somebody's going to be good at their job? Somebody's going to be, somebody tells you, hey, I'm good at marketing and I can get these results. How do you know that they're actually going to get those results, and how can you tell if they're the right fit? So just a few things. There's 10 things. I'm going to run through these really quick. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on them. I'll also link them in the description below. I'll list everything that I have here. So these are the qualities, and these are kind of backed by. So I actually read this book called Answer. They Ask, You Answer. Fantastic book. And talks about marketing, talks about content marketing almost specifically, and it gives the qualities that you need to look for in a content marketer. I added a couple things, I adjusted a couple things as well to make it very specific to real estate investors and kind of so that you guys know what to look for. So let's run through these real quick. The first thing is good at writing. This is extremely important when it comes to delivering content on a platform, specifically your website, right? So I just had this conversation. I was at a mastermind, the Inner Circle Elite, this week with Don Costa and the rest of their crew. And the conversation came up about investor carrot sites, right? So one of the guys in the room brought up his investor carrot site. And I think investor carrot sites are perfect for what they do. They're great for investors. Obviously, that's what they're built for. The only issue is that the same content is on every single investor carrot website if you don't adjust things. So that being said, somebody's got to put articles in there. Somebody's got to put their own articles into the actual website. And who's going to do that? It's got to be somebody that's good at writing. And if you bring a marketer on, they have to be good at writing. This is a skill that I have developed over the past few years, actually. It's something out of these 10 things, this is my second weakness. So my primary weakness is actually number 9, which I'll get to here in a second. But they got to be good at writing. And if they're good at writing, that means they're going to write thoughtful post descriptions when they actually post, maybe a video about acquisitions on Facebook. Or if they're going to run an ad, like, you have to be very skilled at writing and crafting a message that is going to adapt to your audience. So a marketer needs to have that skill. Second thing is skilled at curating content. So basically it just means making the most out of it. So for me, one of my models that I run for my clients is, hey, if you're on a 60-second or a 60-minute podcast interview with somebody, I can juice out, if you're being interviewed, I can juice out 20 to 30 pieces of micro content out of that, whether that be quote cards or short 60-second videos of a nugget that you said, an infographic, a PDF, there's a million things that you could do with that. A marketer needs to be savvy enough to be able to figure that out. So for instance, specifically to real estate, if you're shooting a video about your closing process, a good marketer is going to take that video, publish that, obviously, get that out on the platforms, but he's also going to create a blog out of that. He's also going to create maybe a short PDF that he could send to a buyer and say, or he could send to a seller and say, hey, here's what our closing process looks like, and that kind of thing. So a marketer needs to be skilled at curating content and actually getting the most out of it. So getting the most out of what they're putting out there, and the most what they're putting out, not just content, but marketing in general. Number 3 is great interviewing skills. This is really important. This has a lot to do with sales as well, right? So in sales, you're building that rapport with your seller. With the seller, you're building rapport with the people on your buyers list. If you do that, it's important to be able to interview people and have that kind of a skill where you can draw questions out of somebody, and then in turn, your marketing is meant to answer those questions. But in order to answer those questions and do marketing the right way, you have to be able to pull those questions out that somebody has. So how do you do that? You got to ask them. You got to interview them. You got to be willing to ask those hard questions and allow that person to respond to you and say, hey, here's the real problem. Here's why I need to sell my house that I inherited, or I went through this divorce and I ended up with a house. I don't know what to do with it. And you don't know those situations until you ask the question. So a good marketer needs to be able to do that. Number 4 is embrace and understand not just social media, but new platforms that come out. So the big talk's been TikTok, right? That's been the big talk for the past few months. TikTok's a new platform. A marketer necessarily may not go to that platform, but they need to understand the platform and figure out, hey, is this something that we need to utilize in our marketing? So I know a lot of people I come across, they're marketers, they say they're marketers, but then they say, yeah, Facebook doesn't work or Instagram doesn't work and all that. Well, does it or does it not? Or are you just saying that because you don't want to go, you don't want to kind of gravitate towards what's trending or whatever. As a marketer, that's what you have to do. You have to adapt. If, you still got marketers out there that swear by direct mail, they swear by radio ads, they swear by newspaper ads and magazine ads and print and billboards and all that stuff. But, there is a niche for that, and that stuff still does work. But, it works for me to get, like if I'm going to O'Hare Airport, I could walk there and still get there. Or I could take a car and get me there much faster. And a marketer is going to understand those platforms and figure out a way to get to those conversions quicker, more efficiently, and that's how you do it. So number 4 is be able to embrace, be open-minded about the new platforms that come out, whether that is social media or whatever is next after social media, the current state of the internet after social media. Maybe it's VR, maybe it's AR, it doesn't matter. They need to be able to understand it and embrace it. Number 5 is video editing skills. So that's a big one. Obviously, video is massive. I believe that there are marketers out there that they are okay with video editing. Maybe you don't need to be specifically skilled in putting together a cinematic video, but they need to at least have these skills to be able to put something together and then possibly train somebody else to do it, right? So that's a pretty basic one. It's pretty simple. I think video editing is very easy to do, especially there's a lot of platforms out there. Like Headliner.app is one that I actually use as well in tandem with Adobe Premiere and After Effects. But a good marketer needs to understand the build quality of video because that's what's hot right now. Next is, sorry, I lost my place here. So next is number 6 is extremely likable. They need to be likable. That is very important because what they are doing as a marketer, they are representing your brand. Right? So they are actually putting your brand out there for the world to see, for your audience to adapt to. And if they are not likable, what makes you think that they're going to make your brand likable? So that's important to understand. That's something that a lot of people don't think about. They hire a marketer that's very analytical, that's very, as a matter of fact, and that's typically a lot of marketers, like that's what they are. They are that type of personality. But if they are that type of personality, they're representing your brand, they're going to carry on their personality into your brand as well, especially if they're 100% doing all of your marketing. Like if they don't have a team under them, they're the only ones that are doing it, then you got to be careful of that. You've got to have somebody that's likable. I like to think for me that I'm a likable person. When I go to events and I walk into events, I like to listen and observe people, and then I go in for the kill. Then I'll go, sit with them at lunch and just have some fun and build rapport with them. And that's really what it's all about. It's like, for me, I believe I'm a likable person. You need to have a marketer that's a likable person because you've got to have, they're representing your brand. They're putting your voice out there of who you are and what you do, and their characteristics, their personalities carry into their work. So that's one that's important that a lot of people don't think about. Number 7, understand people and their needs. This is an obvious one. They need to be able to study people, understand people, and understand what their pain points are, and then how to alleviate those. That's really what your services are all about, and a marketer needs to be able to market that specific service. So if you are buying homes from people that are distressed sellers because they inherited a property, a marketer needs to understand those people and their pain points and how they can craft a message to make the audience understand that they're going to alleviate that pain point. So that's a pretty straightforward one. They need to be able to understand people. Again, a lot of marketers' personalities they're very logical, they're very analytical, they don't typically like people, they're introverted. Hey, you got to go against the grain. If you're going to get a good marketer, they've got to be somebody that understands people and is willing to dive into somebody's pain point and craft a message to understand, for them to understand that you can alleviate that. Number 8, organized and goal-oriented. This is extremely important. Again, I keep saying all these are important, but this is a really important one. If they're not organized, they're not going to get your marketing out consistently. And in marketing, consistency is one of the key elements to actually getting traction in anything that you do. The mastermind I was previous at, they were talking about direct mail and how you need to be consistent with your direct mail, and when you mail stuff out, and instead of mailing stuff out just whenever you can replenish, mail it out every 90 days, right? That's what they tell you to do. And so you got to be able to be organized with that, because you can remember the mail now, but how are you going to remember to mail out your next wave of direct mail in 90 days? It's as simple as setting a calendar reminder or whatever, but a lot of marketers don't do that. They're not organized, they're not goal oriented. And again, I always talk about with content marketing, you gotta have a goal for your content marketing. That is the same thing in just marketing in general. You've got to be organized and set goals. And so you have to set goals, and then you got to be organized enough to lay out your steps to get to that goal. And a marketer needs to have that skill and be able to do that. Hopefully that made sense. Number 9, we're almost done. Number 9. So this is honestly the one that I have the biggest weaknesses and biggest weakness in. And I had to fill this weakness, and I did. And I got somebody that knows what they're doing. So for me, they need to be analytical. They need to understand analytics and how to utilize them. That's something that I struggle with. Is I'm not an analytical person, period. I don't like numbers. I really do not. I don't even like simple math. And marketer needs to understand that. And so I have somebody on my team that fills that void, and it allows them to be able to dive into our clients' content, figure out what's working, what's not working, and then we can adjust on the fly like that. But that's not something that I can do. That's something that I had somebody hired to do in order to be that. So a marketer needs to be able to do that for that specific reason. They need to be able to adjust what they're doing in marketing and not just beat a dead horse. They need to be able to understand, like, okay, that horse is already dead. We need to move on to the next horse and figure out what we're going to do here. So a marketer needs to understand that. And the only way they're going to be able to understand that is by running numbers, is by being analytical and understanding how to measure their metrics and put KPIs in place and that kind of thing. Last thing is here, thinking outside the box. So this kind of goes hand in hand with number 4, which is embrace new platforms and platforms that are out there and understand them. You also need to be willing to think outside the box. And a good marketer needs to be able to think outside the box, as in, what can I do different in my marketing in order to improve it? So for instance, Tyler Thrush, who's going to be in the interview down below, he is doing videos. We did shot videos with him explaining the process of the closing process and each single step. And every single time a buyer or a seller comes to his website, they're going to see the steps of how fast can they close. And that's one single video by itself, a 1-minute video by himself about how fast they can close. And that is what a marketer needs to be able to do, is to innovate and think outside the box. How can I get more results by doing something different than what the competition's doing? So that's pretty basic. So that's all I got for you guys. I know this is a little bit longer of a video, but I think it's important. I think your marketer is basically the person that is representing your company, putting yourself out there, that in tandem with your salesperson, and they're answering the questions that essentially your audience has, and you as the operations person or you that's delivering the product is going to be, servicing that. But people got to hear about you before you're able to service them. So those are the 10 traits that a marketer needs to have. Whether you're outsourcing it or bringing somebody in-house, you need to make sure that you're running through these 10 filters in order to find somebody that's going to fit in with you and make sure that, you know, they're going to deliver the best value that they possibly can. So that's what I got for you guys. Make sure you're checking out the rest of the newsletter. Got an awesome interview with my buddy Tyler Thrush about what we were doing with his videos, and then some pretty cool stuff below. So thanks for watching. Make sure that you reach out to me if you have any questions, josh@colormedia.com, and I will see you guys next week.